When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: The Woods Know It. User: BadXDad59. Posted March 9th, 2000.
I would do absolutely anything for my children. Lie, steal, cheat, you name it. But for some reason, the one thing I can't do is be a decent fucking parent. Hell, I used to laugh at those dumb jokes in Reader's Digest about the clueless dad because they made me feel superior, as if I wasn't just phoning it in myself. After all, my kind of failing wasn't dramatic. My kids have everything they need physically. By all outward appearances, I've given them a great life, and they seem to like me, but I could have done better. Duh. There were little absences stacked up over time, missing the school carnival, forgetting about a baseball game when I was at work, even put off the talk when a kid in Nate's class started saying shit he was questioning. No, I wasn't cruel. I wasn't awful. I just wasn't there in the way I should have been and lied to myself about it. Kids are resilient, right? Well, it turns out I was being tested all along and never even realized it. I think the first time I should have paid more attention was that Wednesday. It stormed all morning and left a crisp mildew smell in the air. I got home late, shirt collar wilted, briefcase in one hand, the day's worth of static still buzzing in my head. Nate sat at the kitchen table with a half-eaten bowl of Frosted Flakes, spoon idle. Tessa was leaning on the counter with a volleyball under her arm, hair still damp from practice. They looked like they'd been waiting for me. "Dad," Tessa said, "we need to tell you something." "Make it quick," I muttered, without even looking over at him, dropping the day's stack of bills on the counter and flipping through for the ones with red letters. "We found bones," Nate blurted, voice flat. "What?" I whined, rolling my eyes. "Bones where?" "Back in the woods," Tessa said. "Behind the school, near the creek. We thought it was an animal, Dad, but there were other pieces, weird pieces." "Really?" I asked, with that annoyed tone that only a parent who can't be bothered uses. Tessa shrugged. "White, not real big, but not tiny either." "There was a shoe too," Nate interjected, "half buried. Dad, there were laces still in it." I paused, pictured that stretch of woods, and gave him a split second of concentration, thinking through the tangle of scrub and trails kids used as shortcuts. It was always littered with beer cans, cigarette butts, and the occasional magazine someone's big brother had stashed. Let's be honest, ain't nothing that unusual about finding shit there. "Well, son, it was probably a dog or raccoon," I told him, trying to smile like I gave a shit. "And shoes end up anywhere. You got homework?" Tessa's face tightened. Nate just stirred his cereal. I kept opening envelopes and they continued talking, but honestly, I just tuned it out. That was the start. That was when I should have paid attention. Over the next week, odd little changes crept in around the house, seemingly mundane shit. Tessa started sleeping with her lamp on and asked to keep the hallway light blazing all night. Nate talked in his sleep, whole strings of sentences I couldn't quite catch when I passed his door. Sheila said they'd been coming home smelling like damp leaves. I teased him about it once, about running up the water bill with long showers, and they didn't even crack a smile. One weekend, while I was out in the garage breaking down cardboard boxes for recycling, Tessa came outside. The sky was pale blue, fading to gray, the contrail of a plane cutting across it. "She asked us to ask you again," she said. "Who?" I didn't look up. "The girl," she said. "She lives in the woods. She's looking for her mom. She wants you to come help us find her. She says you'll know what to do." Before I could answer, Nate appeared in the doorway. "She's little, maybe 9 or 10. She says she has to get home before dark," Tessa added, "but she never does." "Huh?" I responded, before even taking a moment to stop myself. Okay, how about next weekend?" They frowned, so I did what I thought a good dad was supposed to do and placated them. "Okay, fine. Let's do Thursday after work. I'll try and leave a little early." Well, needless to say, I felt good about my parenting style at the time, but by the time Thursday got here, I did what I always did and broke my promise. I had very important meetings after all. I told myself at least, but who was I kidding? I got home late and went to bed as usual. After that, they didn't bring up whoever that was directly. I just noticed things. A jacket I didn't recognize hanging by the back door, reeking of smoke from a campfire, muddy footprints on the porch that didn't match any of our shoes, a piece of red thread tied to one of Nate's shoelaces. Then, one afternoon, the grocery store bulletin board had a flyer tacked up. A teenage girl was missing from 2 towns over. I thought about pointing it out to him, but didn't. Sheila, my wife, was pulling double shifts at the clinic back then. She'd come home with stories about sprains, kids with ear infections, old men who wouldn't stop smoking even after a heart scare. We were both worn thin, and that was the excuse we used for everything we let slide. The night it broke, I pulled into the driveway to find Sheila standing on the porch, still in her scrubs, cordless phone clutched tight. "They're gone," she said. It didn't compute. "Their backpacks are gone. They took food, the old compass from your camping gear. I found lists. They packed for something." Inside, Tessa's bedspread was turned back, a book face down like she'd just stepped away. On Nate's desk, a scrap of paper with a childish drawing, a stick figure beside a crooked-smiled kid under a tree. "I called the police," Sheila said. "They're on their way. Do you know where they went?" I told her about the woods, about the girl. The police came, took descriptions, bagged the lists like evidence, asked about friends, strangers, any unusual conversations. I told them what I could. It didn't sound like much. Neighbors showed up with flashlights, the kind you have to smack to get working. People formed search lines calling their names. The local fire department brought in a couple of hounds who sniffed Nate's baseball cap and Tessa's hoodie before heading toward the creek. Someone found a little ring of stones where a fire had been, ash still faint in the middle. Someone else found one of those crinkly silver blankets you see in camping catalogs. 2 days blurred past. The police asked again about the girl. They said she wanted me to help find her mother, I told them. Did you? No. After a week, the big searches wound down. The flyers went up in the grocery store, the post office, the school hallway. Sheila and I barely spoke. One evening, I went to the woods alone. The air was damp, the creek muttering to itself. I found the fire ring, the silver blanket, and a piece of red thread tied to a branch. I followed it until the trees opened into a small clearing with a stump in the center and a pile of stones beside it. A girl sat on the stump. Yellow dress, smudged with dirt, hair in 2 braids the color of rust, a length of red thread wrapped around her fingers. "I'm looking for my mom," she said. "They said you would help." "Where are my kids?" I demanded. She tilted her head. "We waited. The dark came. You never came with them." "What the fuck is this place?" I asked. "It's where we go when nobody listens," she said. "It's where we wait." The girl looked past me and smiled sadly. "You should go home now. She's waiting." I turned, but there was nothing. When I looked back, she was gone. It has been a month since that day, since I met that girl, and my kids are still out there somewhere. Sheila is a mess. I can't focus on anything, haven't been able to work since it happened, can't eat, can't breathe, can't believe what I let happen. Look, I always knew that I would do absolutely anything for my children. Lie, steal, cheat, you name it. But for some reason, the one thing I haven't been able to do is be a decent fucking parent. And now the woods know it. And the woods, well, they don't forgive.
Subject, Bay number 6. User, Hurrah01. Posted, May 2nd, 2001.
I didn't mind the night shift. Nobody talked to me, and that was kind of the point. I'd sit in the garage office, lights humming overhead, surrounded by posters of air filters and synthetic oil brands no one gave a damn about. The place always smelled like burnt rubber and that scorched coffee stink from a pot that hadn't been cleaned since the Bush administration. My brother Danny ran the joint. Well, technically it was our garage, but he was the one with the business smarts and the charm and the house with the kids and the pool. I just answered phones and filed work orders. After the Marines chewed me up and spit me out, 14 years and a blown ACL to show for it, I came home and never went back. Danny gave me a job out of pity. Told me it was just until you figure out your next chapter. Well, that was 5 years ago. Tuesday night, late March, I remember it clear because I'd just seen a midnight double feature of The Relic and Escape from New York the night before, and my head was still swimming with monsters and synth scores. It was 9:45 when I heard the sound. Loud, hollow, and wrong. coming from the back bays, a thud like something heavy falling. I got up slow, knees groaning under my weight, and grabbed the flashlight from under the counter. The overheads were motion triggered and didn't reach all the way to Bay 6 where we parked buses that were out of service. The place looked even darker than usual. Probably one of those damn feral cats, I muttered, more to convince myself than anything else. The second I stepped into the garage, I smelled it. Thick and metallic, not oil or transmission fluid, iron, mildew, rot, like something had been left to stew under the sun too long. I passed Bay 4, empty. Bay 5, same. Bay 6 was pitch black. I took a few slow steps, my boots clicking against the concrete, and that's when I saw the side of bus number 47. 3 long, deep gouges raked across the yellow paint like claws. Not vandalism, not keys, claws. I froze. The logical part of my brain started up. Maybe a lift malfunctioned. Maybe someone backed into something earlier and forgot to mention it, but I knew better. Something about those marks. They weren't mechanical. My flashlight beam passed across the back of the bus and something moved. Quick, just a shadow ducking beneath the lift platform, but it was enough. There was a sound that followed, a wet dragging, not footsteps, dragging. I backed up fast, knocked over a rolling toolbox, and sent half a dozen sockets scattering across the floor like spilled marbles. I waited, frozen in place, silence. Then a faint scraping on the metal lift behind the bus. 2 eyes appeared beneath the chassis. Wide set, low to the ground, reflecting the flashlight beam with an eerie, flat dullness. No glint, no intelligence, just milky white spheres like boiled eggs gone bad. I turned and ran. Back inside the office, I slammed the door and locked it behind me. My heart thudded in my chest like it was trying to break out. I grabbed the cordless to call 911, but the line was dead, just static. Outside the little window in the office door, I couldn't see anything. But the smell had gotten worse, thicker, like the air itself was curdling. I started to search for the front door key, tearing through the desk drawer, receipts, pens, a photo of me and Danny the year we opened this place. I had abs in that photo. Christ. That's when I heard the hiss. It wasn't a snake. It was wetter. Like a breathing leak through a clogged drain, a sound that didn't belong in a garage or anywhere above ground. The motion lights flicked on outside the office window. Something had moved. I ducked behind the desk and peeked through the glass. A shape passed by the window. Hunched and low, maybe 4 feet tall, it wasn't walking, it was dragging itself, one arm much longer than the other, knuckles scraping the concrete. Its body was slick and black, not with fur, but skin, tight like plastic wrap over something that wasn't fully human. Its back moved in waves, like fluid was shifting beneath it. It paused at the window and smiled. Its teeth were sharp and glassy, tiny and many, like broken ceramic shoved into raw meat. Then it moved on, slipping toward the front bays without a sound. I stayed behind the desk for 10 more minutes, maybe longer, and finally, when I couldn't hear anything but the hum of the fluorescence again, I crept to the front, found the key, and slipped outside. The second the door shut behind me, I dropped to my knees in the gravel lot and puked. The next morning, I told Danny everything. He laughed. Said I'd been watching too many of those monster movies I love so much. Said maybe I nodded off and dreamt it. Lay off the popcorn, Jeff, he joked. You're starting to dream in Technicolor. I wanted to slug him, but instead I asked for a couple days off. Of course, I came back. I always come back. That Friday, bus number 47 was gone. Nobody knew who moved it, though. There wasn't a work order or a transfer tag. It was just gone. And worse, there was a black stain on the floor of Bay 6, like oil, but thicker, like something had leaked, but not from a machine. Well, that night, around 2 a.m., I heard something scuttle across the roof. Quick, sharp, and then silence again. The next day, I pulled the security tapes. We had 2 cameras covering the rear bays. I rewound Tuesday night's feed and just static. Wednesday, same, but Thursday, there it was. At 1:22 a.m., a shadow peeled itself from the rear of bus number 47 and slithered up the wall like it weighed nothing. The grainy footage showed only a vague silhouette, but it moved too fast, too smooth, like it didn't belong in this world. It clung to the corner of the ceiling, then vanished off camera. I sat at my desk, rewinding it again and again and again until the tape warbled. A few nights later, Karen, the driver for bus number 47, didn't show up for her morning route. They found her shoes down by the creek. That was it. Danny told me not to bring it up, said the county wouldn't renew the contract if we spooked the drivers, said people disappear all the time, and maybe they do. But that night, I brought a crowbar and a half-empty bottle of Jack and waited in Bay 6. I killed the lights and sat on an overturned bucket, listening to the metal tick as it cooled. At 2:11 a.m., the roof above me groaned. I stood up. I didn't run. I didn't hide, because something deep inside me, something I thought the core had pounded out long ago, stood up with me. Maybe I'm not the man I used to be. Maybe I've got a gut and a busted knee and a job I didn't want, but if something's crawling out of the dark to hunt people, my people, then I've got a purpose again, and I'm gonna meet it face to face, even if it kills me.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.